Hello, my dear friends. Hello, hello, hello. Kasakai. How are you all? How are you all? How are you all? Let me just check. Just check. This looks good. This looks good. This looks good. This looks good. Okay. I feel मुझे नहीं लगता कोई दिक्कत है वॉइस में. वॉइस इज कमिंग एब्सोल्युटली परफेक्ट. मुझे नहीं लगता कोई दिक्कत है वॉइस में. वॉइस इज ओके. Guys, let's start the revision for the power of inspection, search and seizure. Absolutely. So quickly let's wrap it up. When it comes to inspection, search and seizure, my dear friends, it's very important to understand that if the joint commissioner or any other officer above his rank has a reason to believe, understand, it's very important to understand, has a reason to believe. And who has a reason to believe? Joint commissioner or any person above his rank. And what is the reason to believe? That a taxable person has suppressed either the turnover, so that obviously his GST liability is suppressed, suppresses his stock, okay, has availed excess ITC, or has contravened the provisions to evade tax. Or for that manner, a warehouse owner or a transporter who has kept goods or maintain accounts in such a way that it causes tax evasion. If joint commissioner or any person above his rank has this reason to believe, then my dear friends, this can definitely trigger one thing, and that is nothing else but absolutely correct: inspection. And what will we inspect? Yes, whom will we inspect? Either the taxable person, the transporter, or the owner of warehouse. Perfect. Now understand, my dear friends, that once the inspection has started, then pursuant to that inspection, okay, following that inspection, if the joint commissioner or above has reason to believe, if the joint commissioner or any person above has the reason to believe that goods are liable for confiscation, or documents or books are useful for further proceedings which are secreted. ठीक है. One is goods are liable for confiscation and second is documents or books are useful for further proceedings which are secreted. So if any of these things results after the inspection is done, triggers after the inspection is done, then in that case, please understand that joint commissioner or any person, okay, above his rank can definitely go ahead and carry out search or seizure. So understand, the reason to believe these things triggered inspection. After we were done with inspection, if there was a reason to believe that either the goods should be liable for confiscation or the books of accounts or documents are secreted, then that will trigger search or seizure. Okay? Now, while the search or seizure is already going on, understand that during the search, the proper officer shall have the power to seal, break, open the door, almirah, electronic device box in which goods and documents are suspected to have been kept. Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, during seizure, okay, understand that there are two types of seizure that happen. One is something that can be practically taken from the taxpayer's go down or his place of business to department's place of business, and one which is not practicable to seize. The one that is practicable to seize, okay, simple, the department will take it along with it. But if it is perishable, or understand, okay, not punishable, I'm so sorry, perishable hai, this is perishable, hazardous in nature, then it can be disposed of. Okay, and when it is not practical to be seized, then joint commissioner may pass an order to seal the goods and, okay, the goods can be taken from that particular place only with the permission of JC. Without permission, you cannot move those goods, especially when the goods are not practicable to be seized. For example, if there is a huge plant and machinery which cannot be lifted, if there is a huge piece of furniture which cannot be lifted, okay, in that case, understand it will be sealed, and once it is sealed, you cannot move it without the permission of Joint Commissioner. Correct? Yes. In case of provisional release, let's say for example, the goods have been seized, so they are right now in the possession of the department. But let's say the taxpayer says that, listen, my customer has come all the way from US to India just to see those goods, and now that you've sealed them, I will not be able to show him those goods, and thereby my sale will not go through. And if my sale will not go through, I will not have money, I won't be able to pay you. So please, on provisional basis for 5-10 days, whatever period he is asking, please, okay, leave the goods, release the goods. Once the job is done, the customer sees the goods, places the order, I will give it back to you. Don't worry. I'm not going to take it anywhere. For that, I am ready to, furnish a bond that is basically a promise that I will return the goods within a certain period of time. And if not, then, okay, I will pay you the tax interest penalty. And for that, I am also furnishing a security in the form of bank guarantee. Is that very clear? Yes. Next happens to be the final release. So what happens is that, understand that due to inspection, there were certain reasons to believe, and due to that reasons to believe, you searched the premises and then you seized the goods. Now, within 6 months, okay, from the date of seizure, okay, within 6 months from the date of seizure, and there is also an extension of another 6 months, right? Understand, my dear friends, this seizure then has to be followed by a confiscation, right? And before confiscation, there will be a show cause notice that show me the cause that why the seizure of goods should not lead to confiscation of goods. Show me the cause that why do these seized goods should not lead to confiscation of goods, right? And obviously, when the show cause notice is being given to the taxpayer, there will be reasons given that according to us, this is the tax evasion you have done, and which is why these goods the seized goods needs to be confiscated. And accordingly, you will reply it. So if there is a case, they will definitely issue a show cause notice within 6 months. An extension, another 6 months. Right? So where the SCN is issued within 6 months, simple. And the opposite person replies, but it is not satisfactory, the case will move ahead with section 130, that is confiscation of goods, wherein now the title of the goods will be transferred to the department. But if they are not able to make any case with respect to the seized goods, they will have to return it back if they are not able to make any case, and thereby not able to issue any show cause notice within 6 months. Is that very clear? Yes, they will have to return the seized goods. Next, when it comes to books and documents, understand, okay, within 30 days from the date of issue of show cause, if the documents, okay, are relied upon, then they will be kept for further proceedings. But if not, then it will be returned back, right? Perfect. Okay, also remember, my dear friends, that according to section 70, the power to summon, during the inquiry under this act, the proper officer may summon a person to appear before him and give the evidence. Correct? Now, what are the responsibilities of such summoned person? A person to whom summon is issued is legally bound to attend either in person or through the authorized representative, like a lawyer, or for that matter, a chartered accountant. He is bound to state the truth before the officer who has issued to summon and produce the documents as required. Also, there is, my dear friends, a beautiful question given in RTP, right? That what are the following precautions that should be generally observed while summoning a person? So there we were basically concerned about responsibilities of person summoned, that what will that person who summoned has to do. And here the responsibilities are basically, imposed on the proper officer, that what are the precautions that he need to take while summoning a person, right? Then in that case, definitely a summon should not be issued for appearance where it is not justified, clearly. Okay, the power to summon can be exercised only when there is an inquiry. Got it? So firstly, it will trigger when there is an inquiry. Second, understand that you cannot keep summoning repeatedly. Okay, as far as practical, the statement of the accused or witness should be recorded in minimum number of appearances. So if you have summoned a particular person, don't keep on calling him again and again that I want this, I want that. Ask him once and for all that, listen, I am summoning you, but you make sure that you bring these documents along with you. Simple. Third, respect the time of the appearances. So the person to whom you have summoned, make sure that they are not made to wait for long number of hours unless it's a part of a strategy. Got it? Yes. And preferably statement should be recorded during the office hours. However, an exception could be made regarding time and place of recording statement having regards to the fact in the case. But ideally, it should be in office hours. So points to need to remember is record the statement in office hours, right? Don't make the person wait for a long period of time. Okay. Don't ask the person to come repeatedly, right? And what will trigger the summon? When there is an inquiry that is to be undertaken. So it is RTP question number 17. Please make sure, my dear friends, that you also go through this. November 23 question number 70. Okay, while you are doing the inspection, search and seizure part, so that even that part of RTP is covered. You never know, it might just appear all of a sudden in the exam, right? So understand that my objective is that right now, while I'm helping you do things, I'm not just covering the amendments but also the recent RTPs, so that you are very well aware that, listen, the question can be asked from here or here. Fair enough. Okay. So, and last is section 71, that is access to business premises. So authorized officer can access to any business premises for the purpose of inquiry. He can obviously inspect the books of accounts, documents, computers, softwares. Person in charge of property shall furnish the following records to CA, CMA or the audit party with respect to trial balance, cost audit report, income tax audit report, statement of annual accounts. Is that very clear? Yes, sir. So here, my dear friends, we are done with the inspection, search and seizure. Are you getting it, my dear friends? Are you getting it, my dear friends? Say yes, sir. Come on, MS. Come on, Avni. Come on, Sumit. Come on, Smith. Come on, Heath. I will there. Come on, Parth. Padam. क्या बात है? Okay. So we are done with inspection, search and seizure. Okay. Correct. क्या बात है, हित कुबाड़े आप भी हैं? Okay. 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 Give me 5 minutes and we will start with demand and recovery. ठीक है? Yes, we will start with demand and recovery, and within 45 minutes we will also finish off demand and recovery. 45 minutes or maximum 1 hour at the most. Okay, and we will wrap it up even demand and recovery. Fair enough? Great. Okay, my dear friends, let's start with demand and recovery. Yes. Okay. Now, understand, my dear friends, the most important section in demand and recovery happens to be section 73 and 74. 73 and 74. Correct. Now, the objective that needs to be taken into account is, what is 73 and 74? Clearly, they are provisions of demand, not recovery. Okay. understand the entire chapter of demand recovery, we are first focusing on the demand. That first we will demand the tax. Are you getting it? Okay. And then we will focus on recovery of the same, right? So when it comes to section 73 and 74, all I'd like to say is that there are 4 reasons we are talking about: fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of facts. Fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of facts. Okay, either bona fide or mala fide, bona fide or mala fide, bona fide or mala fide, bona fide or mala fide. Bona fide is basically where the mistake is genuine, and mala fide is something where the mistake is not genuine. Are you getting it? Yes, where the mistake is on purpose. Okay, where the mistake is on purpose, right? So that is definitely one thing, my dear friends. Okay, now understand when I talk about section 73 that there is actually there are 4 reasons, okay, which I failed to mention here, but I'll just mention it anyway. Okay, and the 4 reasons are tax not paid, short paid, ITC wrongly availed or utilized, and the last is erroneous refund. Okay, ठीक है. So these are 4 cases: tax not paid, short paid, ITC wrongly availed or utilized, and the last is erroneous refund. Okay, if understand, if you are dealing in any of the 4 issues and you have did it on purpose, on fraudulent basis, okay, on suppression of facts, then the case will be covered under 74. And if not, let's say it's a genuine mistake, then it will be under section 73. Okay, perfect. That is definitely something we are talking about. Now when it comes to section 73, understand one thing very clearly. What I'm trying to talk about is that one is the show cause notice and the other is demand order. One is the show cause notice and the other is demand order. Okay, so whenever, for example, government or department for that matter feels that you have not paid tax, and that reason can be either bona fide or mala fide, doesn't matter, but first thing that will happen is that show cause notice will be issued, and then demand order will be issued, and then recovery will start. So first is show cause, then demand order, and then recovery. Okay, now understand that if any of these 4 cases have happened, and if, okay, the reason happens to be bona fide, it's a genuine mistake, then there are 2 aspects. Let's say the taxpayer understands that and pays the tax voluntarily. How? Very simple. Generally the course of action is that, understand, you have filed a return. If you filed a return, right, there is a scrutiny that is done, and in the scrutiny there was a discrepancy that was identified by the department, by the proper officer, and communicated to you, but you did not answer it, or you maybe accepted it but did not take the required action of paying tax, interest, penalty. So now what has happened is either there is inspection, search and seizure, either there is any audit that has happened, or directly they have started with demand and recovery proceedings, where they are demanding tax by issuing a show cause notice that show me the cause that why this much amount of tax is not payable by you, right? So understand that in scrutiny itself, if the department had indicated that, listen, we are going to raise a show cause notice on you, so you have a chance, you can pay tax before we issue the same. If the taxpayer already knows somewhere that he did it wrong, he is soon going to be caught, he might as well, okay, just voluntarily make the payment before SCN is issued. Now the payment done is a full payment, then all we'll have to do is just, okay, give it in writing to the proper officer that, listen, I have made this payment Okay, and against this tax period, which I think was a shortfall. So please take a note of it and do not issue any show cause notice for the same, right? So he will have to inform in writing to the proper officer, and if everything is good and the tax liability is what was aimed at has already been recovered, which was voluntary payment made by the uh, taxpayer, then in that case no show cause notice will be issued. But my dear friends, okay, understand, if that voluntary payment was a short payment, if the voluntary payment was a short payment, so there is dishonesty in honesty, there is dishonesty in honesty, right? Then in that case, for the remaining amount the show cause will be issued. And in case, okay, he has not made any voluntary payment, then directly, okay, the discrepancy that was communicated to him in scrutiny, okay, a demand notice will be issued, a show cause notice will be issued directly in that case, and in that show cause notice clearly the tax, interest, penalty figures will be written and communicated. Got it? Yes. Okay. Acha, also remember that here we are discussing one more point, and that is with respect to statement. Okay, so understand that okay, with respect to show cause notice only, let's say for example, okay, there is an issue, and what is the issue? The issue is with respect to ITC wrongly availed. Now this is with respect to, okay, the tax period covered under 2021. Now due to the same reason, okay, there is another leakage of tax with respect to same reason but different tax period 21-22. Then understand, show cause notice must have got issued for this period, then for this show cause will not be issued, okay, statement will be issued, where understand the only thing written will be the amount of tax payable. Okay, for reasons the statement will state that for reasons please refer to the show cause notice dated this, and the reference of this show cause will be given. Is that very clear? So the best part about issuing the statement is that it saves a lot of labor work, clerical work, because department has realized that the tax that needs to be demanded though might be for a different tax period, but the reasons for the same are one and the same for which the previous SCNs were issued. So might as well give reference to that, and okay, and just write down the tax liability in the statement. Correct? Yes. Next, payment of tax plus interest as mentioned in the show cause notice. Perfect. Now if the payment is done within 30 days of the show cause, if the payment is made within 30 days from the date of issuance of show cause, then simple, okay, all you need to do is just pay the tax and the penalty. Okay, pay the tax and the interest. Okay, correct, because the proceedings get concluded here itself. Okay, so the payment of tax and interest will be done, and that's it. No questions asked. There is no penalty that will be covered here. But if the payment is not made within not made within 30 days, then in that case understand my dear friends, okay, the demand order will be issued, and the demand order will particularly state tax, interest and penalty, and the penalty here will be either 10% of the tax amount or 10,000, whichever is higher. Is that very clear, my dear friends? 10% of the tax amount or 10,000, whichever is higher. Perfect. So that is what that needs to be taken into consideration, that if it is paid within 30 days, only tax and interest because it's delayed payment of tax, no penalty, right? Absolutely no penalty out here, right? Take a note of this. But when it comes to payment after 30 days, there will be tax, there will be interest, and there will be penalty. What is the amount of penalty? 10% of the tax amount or 10,000, whichever is higher. Did you get it? Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay. and the demand order that needs to be issued is 3 years from the due date of annual return. Okay, 3 years from the due date of annual return. Okay, that's it, my dear friends. Okay, now just to ensure that you know that the time limit with respect to SCN and demand order is discussed. Within how many years you can issue a show cause notice for a particular tax period? तो बोला है 2 years and 9 months. 2 years and 9 months with respect to SCN. And when it comes to demand order, it is 3 years from the due date of filing annual return. From the due date of filing annual return. Okay, next is erroneous refund. So when it comes to erroneous refund, my dear friends, okay, all I'd like to talk about is 2 years and 9 months with respect to SCN and 3 years ka demand order from the date of erroneous refund. From the date of erroneous refund. That's how it needs to be done. Simple. Okay, so make sure that you don't make the mistake of understanding that when it comes to erroneous refund, you don't start counting 3 years or 2 years and 9 months from the due date of filing annual return. No, that will not happen. Okay, that will not happen. You have to calculate from the date of grant of erroneous refund. So make sure that you are very clear with respect to the starting date. Okay, कहाँ से गिनती होगी? Where will you start counting from? Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, is with respect to 74. Here again, the tax not paid, short paid, erroneous refund, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. Okay, when it comes to, my dear friends, voluntary payment, you make the payment, but understand, since here the reason is malified, there is a taint, there is a dhabba of being malified. In that case, understand, you need to pay tax, interest and penalty will be only 15% of the tax amount. There is no higher or lower limit. 15% of the tax amount, done. Okay, the proceedings will drop there and there, right? Okay, now if you make the full payment, you inform that in writing, SCN will not be issued. But even in that case, you make short payment, or for that matter, you have not made any payment at all. Okay, there is no payment at all done, and there is issue of show cause notice. Okay, then in that case, please understand, okay, that with the show cause notice is issued, where the show cause notice is issued with respect to tax, interest and penalty. So in the show cause, they will always write 100% penalty, because they don't know at what juncture will you pay. So this is how it is written. But understand, my dear friends, as I said, show cause is issued for the first time and statement is issued for, okay, the following time, where the tax is evaded but the reasons are still the same which were mentioned earlier in the earlier show cause, right? In that case, please understand, if before show cause you make the payment, that is voluntary payment, 15% of tax will be the penalty amount. But if the show cause is already issued and within 30 days of show cause, if you make the payment with interest, then 25% penalty will be levied. Now, if you also don't do that, and if say demand order is issued and within 30 days of demand order you are paying the tax amount and the interest amount, then in that case penalty again will be issued, but with what extent? 50% of the tax penalty. And the last is, my dear friends, if you also don't make payment within 30 days from the date of issue of demand order, then in that case, after 30 days, if you land up paying, then understand, my dear friends, okay, after 30 days of demand order, okay, then in that case, my dear friends, definitely, please understand that you will land up paying 100% of the penalty. You will pay 100% of the penalty, my dear friends. Okay. So I'll repeat it again. Voluntary payment 15%. Show cause notice issue हो गया है, so within 30 days 25. Within 30 days of demand order 50, and after 30 days, okay, it will be, understand, 100%. Here the time limit for issue of show cause notice is 4 years and 6 months. Okay, and when it comes to demand order, it is, okay, 5 years. So this is for show cause notice, and this is for demand order. From where? From the due date of filing annual return. But when it comes to erroneous refund, again it's 4 years and 6 months and 5 years. But from which date? Due date of filing annual return? No! It is date of erroneous refund. Date of erroneous refund. Okay. I've also done few sums here, okay, while I was teaching earlier. Make sure you take a note of that and you land upon the right sum and you practice this, because this needs a certain kind of a memory, okay, which a lot of people don't have, also because they are not emphasized on this point while they have taken classes from some faculty. Okay, so this really needs to be understood and taken up into consideration. Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, happens to be 73 subsection 11. Understand, in 73 subsection 11, they talk about self-assessed tax not paid within 30 days of due date. Now this is a very tricky situation. I'll tell you why. Because understand, 7311 says, okay, and it is interpreted in two ways. It says self-assessed tax but not paid within 30 days. Now understand, if it is not paid within 30 days but after 30 days, there are two scenarios. Is that amount paid before the issue of show cause or after the issue of show cause? Right? Where? So let's say, for example, I have paid delayed payment of tax after 30 days but before issue of SCA. So department has not reminded me to pay. I have only paid but thoda late, okay, a little late. In that case, government says that, listen, it is a very heinous crime as per 73(11), and which is why in this case, okay, there will be penalty, but the penalty will not be as per 73(11). It will be as per section 125, general penalty up to 25,000. The reason this penalty will not trigger as per 73(11) is because here, understand, that to levy penalty under 73(11), you first have to make sure that you do the crime covered under section 73. And the crime of section 73 is tax not paid. But have you not paid the tax? No, you've paid the tax. Have you paid the right amount of tax? Yes, you paid the right amount of tax. It's just that the tax is paid in delay. Now, how much will you penalize someone for that? So government said a general penalty can be imposed, but 73(11) will not trigger, because to trigger 73(11), you have to first trigger section 73. And that is only not getting triggered. So understand that situation is not only getting triggered, then how can the penalty, okay, which is a consequence of that crime, will get triggered? Because the crime is only not done in the first place, right? And second, what happens here is that, understand, if the proceedings under section 73 is invoked before GST 3B and payment plus interest. Now understand that section 73 has got triggered. How? Because payment had not been made within 30 days. Yes, payment was made after 30 days. But understand, when? So they said that after show cause was issued. Okay. After show cause was issued, so department had to remind me that boss, you need to pay this tax, right? And I paid it, and I paid it how much? Okay, obviously the tax and interest, but along with that a penalty of 10,000 or 10% of the tax amount, whichever is higher, which is clearly the penalty covered under 7311. And that will override, okay, section 73(8), which talks about that if payment is made within 30 days from SCN, okay, then no penalty will be issued. But here understand, even if it is made within 30 days, doesn't matter, because the penalty is not as per 73(8) but 7311, and 7311 has overriding effect over 73(8). Got it? Yes. Okay. Next is statement covered under section 74(3) is deemed to be show cause notice under 73(1). What do you mean by that? Understand, as I said, what is a statement? It's basically a show cause notice issued for the same reason but different tax periods. Now, in section 73 this was a sorted concept, but in 74 there is a little twist, and the twist is that, let's say for the first time if SCN is issued, okay, and the reason is section 74, in that case, my dear friends, understand, bhai, understand, bhai, understand, okay, that SCN is issued under section 74. SCN is issued under section 74. Okay. Now I know that the grounds are the same. Grounds are the same, but for different tax periods. Right? Correct? Yes. Yes. So in this case, understand, statement will be issued. Now the statement here, understand, that is issued under 73(4) will not have the characteristics of SCN of 74, will actually have the characteristic of SCN issued under 73(1). Yes. So here the time limit will be the same, the penalties will be the same, which are covered under 73(1), that is within 30 days from SCN. If paid, then no penalty, and after that it is paid, then 10% of the tax amount or 10,000, whichever is high. You keep this in mind. This is very important, that the statement of 73(4) is deemed to be SCN under 73 and not 74. Okay, 73 and not 74. Okay. Also understand that the proceedings in respect to the said notice shall not be concluded. Shall not include proceedings under 132. So the entire prosecution proceedings, okay, are different. And second is, proceedings against the main person have been concluded under section 73 or 74. The proceedings against all the persons liable to pay penalty under section 122, 125 are deemed to have been concluded, but not under section 129 and 130. 129 and 130 cases will be continued because they are cases of confiscation. They are cases of penalty when, okay, you are doing any non-compliance when it comes to goods not found in transit in alignment with the invoice. Got it? Yes. So 129 and 130 will still continue. Remember that. Okay. Next. Now these clarifications, my dear friends, are a part of recent amendments of May 23. Let me throw some light to it. So there are these big paragraphs, my dear friends, okay, that are written, but understand, I have categorized into this amazing flow chart that gives you perspective of every individual in this case, and thereby making it super, my dear friends, okay, easy for you to remember. Okay, understand, my dear friends. Okay, understand, if there is A, who's issued tax invoice without goods or services to B has availed in ITC on the basis of that tax invoice and has further issued tax invoice with further supply of goods. Now what is the position of A here? Has he supplied goods? No. Will the tax liability arise? No. Is he subject to penalty? Yes, with section 122 subsection 1. For issuing tax invoice without supply of goods or service. Correct? Acha, what is with respect to B? Okay, tell me. Can B avail ITC? No, because he does not have goods or service. But has he done it? Yes, because he has fraudulently done it. Whereas he is not allowed because he has not received goods along with the invoice. So clearly, is amount liable to be demanded from Mr. B under 73-74? Yes. So is the demand applicable? Yes. Is there a penalty? Yes. Understand that no other penalty shall apply for the same, including 122(1). Why? Because the penalty is clearly getting covered under 74. So now we don't want to resort to 122(1) because once either the penalty under 73 or 74 is levied, no other section, no other penalty sections will ever apply. Understand that very clearly. Next, Mr. A, B, C. A issues tax invoice without supply of goods. A issues tax invoice without supply of goods. Again, with respect to A, has he supplied goods? No. Is there any GST liability? No. Can we make any demand and recovery from him? No. Is he subject to penalty? Yes. 122(1). B. Understand, with respect to B, B has availed ITC without the receipt of goods or service. Right? So understand, he will be subject to penalty twice. Once when he has availed ITC and the second is when he is issuing the tax invoice without supply of goods or service. He has done both the type of crimes. And the last is, my dear friends, Mr. C, where no comments of ICI has been offered, but I would like to offer mine and say that here in this case, okay, understand that this person, Mr. C, again avails ITC on the basis of tax invoice without receipt of goods or service. So in this case also understand that he will be subject to penalty under section 122 subsection 1. Okay. And with respect to Mr. A, Mr. B and Mr. B and Mr. C, so A to B, B to C, A to B, B to C. In that case, understand there is no supply that has happened. That is why there is no GST liability, and that is why 7(1)(a) shall not apply. And no liability arises. Okay, and which is why no demand can be made from 73 and 74. Okay, that is a simple general rule. Is that very clear, my dear friends? Yes. Okay. So that was section 73 and 74. 73 and 74. I would really want to go. I really would want you to go through this again and come back in 10 minutes. Okay, 11:45. And then we will be left with 75, 76, 77, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. Okay. Chal, फटाफट से आ जाओ. Now we are coming back to section 79, that is recovery. Understand that whatever you demand, okay, you will have to recover it. You will have to recover it. So when does the recovery start? Very simple. Once the demand order is issued, okay, I will directly go to actually section 78. That once the demand order is issued, you have two options: either to go for an appeal or either you pay the tax. If you don't do either of them, then the recovery will start. And once the recovery starts under section 75, then there is no looking back. There is absolutely no looking back. Because understand one thing, these are the principles that proper officer will remember while he is starting the recovery, right? The first is the time limit to issue the SCN and demand order can be extended, okay, if there is a stay order either to the show cause or either to the demand order. So for example, right, the demand order is, let's say, 3 years, right? 3 years from the due date in case of tax not paid, short paid, or for that matter ITC wrongly availed or utilized. Let's say the stay order was 6 months. Now the demand order okay was stayed. Then in that case the time limit to issue demand order will be extended, okay, it will be extended by 6 months, okay. So it will not be 3 years, but it will be 3 years and 6 months, right? Because that 6 months was a stay period where the department could not collect any tax, okay. Second, interest mandatory to be paid even if not mentioned in the demand order. It goes without saying that if you have made a delayed payment of tax, it will be always accompanied with interest, even if it is not mentioned in the show cause notice or demand order. It doesn't matter at all. It is a mandatory element that needs to be accompanied with, okay, whenever the tax is paid. If the case is remanded from appellate authority, appellate tribunal, or court to the adjudicating authority, right, then in that case he shall pass the order within 2 years from the date of communication of order. Now this is to be understood very clearly that, for example, if there is any case, right, so for example, department had issued a show cause notice, I replied, but they did not pay any heed to it, a demand order was issued, and instead of paying tax, I rather went to go for an appeal. And when was the appeal? Either now the case is in appellate authority, tribunal, or court. Now if either of them, okay, when they look at the matters of the case, when they look at the merit of the case, and they realize that the investigation was only not done properly. Why? Because directly the demand order was issued. Show cause was not issued only before show cause demand order was issued. Then what will happen is they will say that, listen boss, you have not investigated this case properly, you have not given opportunity of being heard to the taxpayer. So proper officer, take this case back, okay, ask him the relevant questions, send him the show cause, listen to his reply, and then see if any demand order needs to be issued or not. At least follow the principles. Yeah, you are not even following the principles, god damn it, right? So that needs to be taken care of, and you need to pass the order within 2 years from the date of communication of order, right, and not when the date of order is passed. So take a note of this very clearly. Second, opportunity of being heard. Obviously before passing the order you have to make sure that there is opportunity of being heard. Next is amount in demand order cannot exceed the amount in SCN. So for example, in SCN the amount demanded was 10 lakhs in terms of tax. Now you cannot say that I am passing order of 12 lakhs. No. Understand, if you have raised a demand notice of 10 lakhs, how can you pass an order of anything about 10 lakhs? You can't. Either it can be 10 or either it can be less than 10, right? Because you must have seen the reply of the taxpayer. In that case you realize that he does have a valid argument. Okay, so out of 3 points, 1 point he wins and 2 points you realize that he does not have a relevant reply, so you go ahead with it. And which is why now the tax that needs to be demanded is not 10 lakhs but let's say 8 lakhs. So 8 lakhs will be demanded, right? So keep this in mind, right? And demand order shall also confirm only on those grounds which are covered in the notice. So for example, in the notice, understand that there were demands like there were grounds like, for example, ITC wrongly availed. Now you cannot pass any demand order with respect to erroneous refund or with respect to tax not paid or short paid. Understand, the grounds also has to be the same, right? Yes. Next, if appellate authority or tribunal or court modifies the tax liability, then automatically the interest and penalty will be modified. Very simple. So understand, if the tax has been modified, right? Let's say so in notice it was 10 lakhs and in order it is, let's say, 8 lakhs. So now the penalty will also be on 8 lakhs. Now the interest will also be on 8 lakhs. Got it? And modification can be either reduced or increased, whatever the case may be, right? So that is the case, my dear friends. Next is demand order. Understand, demand order is a speaking order. Demand order has to be a speaking order. So you need to clearly state the reasons why you are demanding this money. You cannot just, vaguely demand money without stating any reasons, right? Next is, if appellate authority, tribunal, or court concludes that your case is actually not covered under 74, but it is actually supposed to be concluded under 73, then what will happen is that they will, tarnish your case, that SCN under 74 is invalid. And once they tarnish that, once the ruling is in your favor that listen, the SCN issued by proper officer is not covered under 74 because this is not a malified case, then it is automatically understood that it is a bona fide case. They will not particularly mention that now issue notice under 73. No, you will have to start treating that as a case of 73. And this does have a lot of impact on the tax liability and on the penalty, right? Because understand, there in 73 the time limit to issue show cause notice is 2 years and 9 months. Here it is 4 years and 6 months, right? There is penalty of 10%. Here it is 15, 25, 50 and 100, depending on when you have paid the money, correct? Next is such order of redetermination of tax interest penalty shall be issued by the proper officer within 2 years from the date of its communication. तो ये भी 2 साल के अंदर इशू कर देना. This also you have to issue within 2 years. Next is, are there any adjustments? Yes. How many? Maximum 3 years. Sorry, maximum 3 adjournments. Perfect. Next, if demand order is issued after a time limit, if the demand order is issued after time limit, let's say after 3 years or 5 years, it will be barred. It will be time barred. Understand, you cannot issue a demand order after 3 years or 5 years. Simple. It's as simple as that. Got it? Yes. Perfect. Next is, my dear friends, that when I talk about penalty, then understand, if you levy penalty under 73, 74, you are not levying penalty under any section, especially it starts with 122 and offenses and penalties. Remember that. And the last is, if department realizes that you have already self-admitted a tax liability but not paid, then in that case you will not go through the procedure of SCN, then demand order. No, you will directly start with recovery. And this generally happens where you've admitted the liability in GSTR 1 but you have not paid the tax in 3B. Yes, in that case you admitted that you have made outward supplies, the output tax liability is receivable from you, but you have not paid that in 3B. Now directly 79 will trigger and recovery will start, right? Correct. And understand that generally whenever this happens, if this happens, if there is this mismatch between 1 and 3B due to some typographical error, or due to a supply which could not be declared in 1 but has got declared in 3B, any such mistakes, then in that case please understand, proper officer shall send the communication to the registered person for explaining the difference. And before recovery could start, he would see the reply. But if the taxpayer fails to reply, fails to make payment, or fails to explain the reasons, then in that case recovery will start. This is something new, my dear friends, which I have also covered here in this book, where I have made these small notes with respect to the amendments covering both May 23 and November 23, right? This is something that I'm talking about. self-assessed tax to include tax payable on outward supplies furnished in GSTR 1 but not included in section 39 return, that is 3B. So if you want, you can just go through this entire paragraph that I have given. I will send this on the Telegram channel so you can make the use of it, my dear friends. Okay, perfect. I've just made the explanation very precise to the point in a diagrammatic format so that you understand it very clearly. Okay, perfect. Next is, my dear friends, section 76. 76, my dear friends, talks about very simple things. It says that tax is collected but not paid. So the supplier has collected tax from the recipient but not paid to the government. Okay. Now what government says is, government says that, listen, if you have collected tax but not paid, even if the supplies that you had made were exempted or were taxable, I don't give a time, but if you've collected tax and not paid, then you are in for some crazy shit. Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because this is absolute chori. You are stealing the money. You are a 420% nonsense, right? Because you have collected but not paid. That means you've emptied someone's pocket in the name of tax, and now you're not paying it to the government. Because the amount that you've collected is not in the form of consideration, but god damn it, it is in the name of tax. And you are not paying it to the government. Now government says that, listen, in such cases, if we get to know, there is no time limit to issue show cause notice. 2 saal, 9 saal tha na? 4 years, 6 years, nothing doing, no time limit. 100 years before, I will issue show cause notice. But there is definitely a time limit with respect to issuance of demand order, then that is 1 year from the date of SCN, which is fair. And I feel it will be even earlier, because the earlier I issue demand order, the earlier I can start the recovery proceedings. Interest will be obviously 18%. Okay. But understand here, the best part is that interest will not start from the 21st day. It will actually start from the day when you have collected the money. So for example, if you've collected money in the month of April, right, let's say 1st of April, and you have not paid, then your interest will not start from 21st May. No. It will start from 1st of April itself. Yes. Got it? So this is a very, very, very important point. Please make sure that you remember. Next. Amount paid to the government shall be adjusted against the tax payable by the person in relation to taxable supplies. Okay, or for that matter, the surplus amount after adjustment shall be credited to the refund to the person who has borne the burden of tax, or to CWF, that is Consumer Welfare Fund. So what happens is, ideally, let's say you've collected 1 lakh rupees as tax, but you have not paid. Now show cause notice was issued, a demand order was issued, now you have paid that 1 lakh. Now understand what has happened here is that you have charged 50,000 on taxable supplies, which is the correct amount, and you have also charged 50,000 on supplies which are exempted supplies. Now you have collected tax, so you have to pay, so you've paid 1 lakh. But understand, on that another supply where you have charged 50,000, you are not supposed to charge, you are not supposed to collect, you are not supposed to pay. But you had to pay because you had collected. You had to pay because you have collected. Now government says that, listen, since that other supply happens to be exempt supplies, I also don't have the right to keep that money. I also don't have the right to keep that money, because that comes from a supply which is exempted supply, on which tax should not have been charged on the first place. But since you've charged, you've collected, you have to pay. Now what will happen? The government said that, listen, in this case, what will happen is, let's say, if there is a recipient who has borne the burden of this tax, then he might as well apply for the refund, right? And if he is not, let's say he's an unregistered person, then this amount will go to CWF, Consumer Welfare Fund. Got it? Yes. So in that way, definitely the surplus amount will be adjusted against giving back the refund to the person who has borne the burden of tax, or by the way of remitting it to CWF, Consumer Welfare Fund. And that is how the amount will be adjusted. Okay, perfect. Next is section 77 and section 19. This is a very simple concept. It only says that, listen, if you have adjudged a certain transaction as intra but later it happens to be inter, or vice versa, you've adjudged it as inter and later it comes out to be intra, then in that case, please understand what? Very simple. Okay, that let's say in 77 you wrongfully paid CNS, then you take refund of CNS and you pay IGST. And in 19 you have wrongfully considered this as IGST, take refund of IGST and pay CNS. But understand one thing that is common between both of them, that is the interest point, which says that, listen, obviously if you've identified it as a wrong supply, you have obviously ended up paying the tax late. You have ended up paying the right tax late. So here you should have identified this as I, but you have identified this as CNS. So instead of paying I, you have paid CNS. So now what happened? You have to take refund of CNS and you have to pay I. Now this I that is paid, that is a delayed in nature. That is delayed in nature. Let's say you got to know that after 6 months. Then in that case, that will not be accompanied with interest. In that case, that will not be accompanied with interest. Got it? Got it? And the same case is here. Okay. Interest will not be paid here because understand the tax was always paid. It's just that it went into the wrong head. That's it. The tax was always paid. Remember that. Okay? We've already done 78 where you have to make sure that you pay payment within 3 months of the service of demand order. If not, then recovery starts. Now, important. If recovery starts, how does the recovery happen? Okay. Government says, okay, the first case that happens to be is, let's say if there is any refund that is liable to paid to the taxpayer by the government, let's say worth 10 lakhs. And the tax liability of that taxpayer towards government happens to be 2 lakhs. Then in that case, the refund amount that needs to be paid will be 8 lakhs. So deduct that tax liability and pay the net amount. Or else sometimes it can also go something like that, that only once this guy has paid 2 lakhs to government will the 10 lakhs of refund will be remitted. So 2 and 10, ya fir net 8, whatever the case may be. Okay. Second is destrain of movable and immobile property. Destrain the property under the control of proper officer. So if the payment of the said amount or cost of distress. Okay. Okay. Understand, if that is paid within 30 days, okay, from which the property is sold, then it's fair, right? You know, so understand that the notice that your property is destrained, okay, within 30 days if you make the payment, then your property will be released. If not, then your property will be sold off. So if it remains unpaid, then the property is sold. Okay? Acha. Also here, the help of collector will be taken into consideration. So for example, the proper officer may prepare a certificate specifying the amount and send it to the collector, in which the person in default, PID's person in default, resides or carries business as if it were land arrear. So if the collector gets a mandate from the GST department that this is the person from whom you need to collect tax, the collector will go as if it is not a tax amount that he is recovering, it's actually land arrears that he is collecting. So here the collector will do the job of the department, right? Acha, recovery through goods. So in case you have already seized the goods, right, of a person, let's say in transit or from his factory or godown or office space, you can sell it off and obviously make sure that the amount is repaid back. Okay, and the last is most important, garnishee proceedings. That is basically making sure that you ask their debtors to pay to the government and not to him as in the person in default, right? So the person to whom notice is served is bound to comply. Point number one. So for example, I am person in default and I had sold some goods to Mr. X. Now department will send the notice to Mr. X that please make sure that that you are a debtor of worth rupees 1 crore for Mr. Karan. You need to pay Mr. Karan. You will not pay Mr. Karan, you will pay me. And understand, okay, that the debtor will have to make sure that he complies, right? Very important. Okay, because as soon as he complies, understand two things will happen. Okay, that 1 crore worth of liability of Mr. X towards the PID, that is person in default, will be nullified, and the liability of PID towards department will also be nullified. So X towards mine and mine towards department will all be nullified, right? And what is the amount that can be sent him as notice? Very simple. The amount that is receivable from that debtor by that person in default, or the liability whichever is lower. So for example, if okay, PID has a liability towards government of 10 lakhs and PID's debtors are 20 lakhs, right? So obviously the notice will not be for 20 lakhs, it will be for 10 lakhs, correct? And that much payment needs to be done to government, and the remaining 10 will be done by the debtors of PID to PID, right? And if it is ulta, okay, where the amount to be paid to the department is 20 lakhs and debtors of PID is 10 lakhs, then in that case the notice will be for 10 lakhs, right? So to that extent, the liability of PID towards department will be extinguished. So now he only has to pay 10 lakhs more, because 10 lakhs is already recovered from the PID's debtor by the government. So that is what this and this explains. Okay. Okay. Also understand, okay, also understand, my dear friends, if the person has been sent the notice that you are required to pay this amount, because we know that you are the debtor of the person in default. After receiving that notice also, that person lands up paying the person in default and not to the department, then in that case he will personally become liable. He will personally become liable. Now he will be considered as a person in default, understand? Okay. And let's say for example, the person from whom you are actually demanding the money and considering him as the person in default, if he clearly states, proves the fact that he is not the person in default that these guys are looking out for, then obviously in that case the notice shall be revoked. Got it? And also understand that notice can be sent to post office, bank or insurance company, and there is no necessary evidence to be produced like deposit receipt, passbook or policy to recover that money. Nothing, because they will, because understand, department will not even have these documents. These documents will be with the policy holder, with the account holder. They will directly send a notice that if you have this much amount of person in default in your bank account, freeze it because it belongs to me. If is there any insurance policy that is getting matured, freeze it, that belongs to me. Understand, these are also the debtors of whose? Person in default. Got it? Yes. Next, okay, understand one thing very clearly, which was also covered in the recent May 23 amendment, which said that, okay, a lot of times with respect to inspection, search and seizure, a lot of taxpayers alleged that the proper officers were actually using coercion methods, forceful methods in asking the taxpayer to pay tax. during the proceedings of inspection, search and seizure. Now, can they do that? The answer is no, they cannot do that. After inspection, search and seizure, the first thing that they need to do is issue show cause. Give the opposite person an opportunity of being heard and then issue a demand order. You cannot just collect tax like this just because you've got some substantial evidence in your inspection, search and seizure proceedings that the person is liable to pay tax. No, you will have to go through the route of SCN and demand order. But understand, this absolutely has no relevance to the fact that the taxpayer actually has the ability, has the power to voluntarily make payment of tax, and he also is benefited because of this. In 73 he has to pay no penalty, and in 74 it is restricted to only 15%, so it has its own benefits. Understand that, my dear friends. Okay, this is after, by the way. Okay, next is section 80, very important, GST in installments. Understand, tax can be paid in installments, but understand only when there is, so understand, tax can be paid in installments. Answer is yes, tax can be paid in installments. Okay, yes, tax can be paid in installments, friends, especially GST. It can be paid in installments, but which tax? Self-assessed tax? No, it is the demand tax liabilities. Let's say under 73, 74, right? That definitely has a gestation period. All you have to do is apply to the commissioner to avail this installment facility. How many installments are allowed? Maximum 24 EMIs, or how much ever the proper officer deems fit. Okay, and let's say, for example, if the proper officer, if the commissioner gives, let's say, 12 installments as the number of installments in which you are supposed to pay the GST, in that case, understand, after 5th installment, let's say on the 6th installment the person defaults, then there and there itself, okay, there and there itself, you will make sure, my dear friends, that you make the entire payment that is pending. Now there is no installment facility that is extended to you. Got it, Devanshu Agarwal? Yes. The entire outstanding will become payable immediately. Okay. Next, tax to be first charged on property. Yes, any amount payable by a taxable person, government shall have the first charge on the property. Provisional attachment. Now this also has gone through an amendment. It says that pending the proceedings of assessment, inspection, search and seizure, demand and recovery, commissioner shall pass an order, DRC, mentioning details of property which are attached. Copy of the order shall be sent to concerned revenue authority, transport authority and bank. Okay, also person whose property is attached, he has the right to file objection. Initially that objection had to be filed within 7 days, but now there is no time limit attached. Okay, if the objection is filed, commissioner should provide opportunity of being heard. Now if the commissioner is satisfied, answer is yes, release the property. If the commissioner is satisfied, okay, answer is no, then the attachment continues. The attachment continues. Okay, acha, the provisional attachment that you have done shall cease to be effective after 1 year. Shall cease to be effective after 1 year. And note 2, property of the person specified under section 122(1)(a) can also be attached as apart from taxable person. Got it? Yes. And the last, my dear friends, that we are supposed to talk about is, okay, very simple. Okay, we have 81, then 84. We'll first do 81. Transfer of property to be void. So what happens is that now the taxpayer has known already that there are a lot of tax liabilities that he has not paid, that he was actually supposed to pay, right? and the person after the amount became due from him. Okay, so what happens is that the person has got to know that the amount due from him will be recovered by selling the property. So what has happened is that he has started making transfer to his mother, father, wife, employees. So all those transfers will be void. All those transfers will be void, right? Unless the transfer is for an adequate consideration in good faith or with previous permission of proper officer. Okay, understand that. And the last is section 84, which says that if demand order is served to a taxable person and if appeal and revision application is filed, an officer needs to stay the recovery proceedings. Okay, appeal is disposed of, resulting into cancellation of demand order. So the demand order is cancelled, then there is no recovery. If the demand order is confirmed, then obviously the recovery continues the way it was before. Okay, before the stay. Acha, enhancing of dues. So initially it was 10 lakhs, now it is 15 lakhs. So for 5 lakhs, a new show cause notice will be issued. A new demand order will be issued. And fourth will be reduction of dues. In this case, fresh demand notice is not issued. We will continue the recovery proceedings, but the recovery proceedings will now be continued with the reduced amounts. So 10 का 5 लाख हो गया है. Now you will recover only 5 lakhs. Are you getting it? Yes. Okay. No new demand will not be issued. New demand notice will be issued only when there is enhanced tax liability. Right? That's it, my dear friends. That is where we cover section 73, 70, 76, 77, 70, 78, 84. Okay, 73 say 84 we have covered, my dear friends, with respect to demand and recovery. Okay, hope, my dear friends, this entire discussion was fruitful and we've actually completed this entire thing within 1.5 hours. Okay, so I hope this was grateful, and I hope if you just happen to solve the sums of demand and recovery, you are sorted for life. You're sorted for life. You're sorted for life. Trust me on that, my dear friends. Okay, that's it, my dear friends, for today. Tomorrow we will be having offenses and penalties, appeals and revisions, and miscellaneous provisions. Day after we will have ITC, and the last that we will be doing is refund. That means on 11th September we are going to complete the entire GST. Yes, and I'm actually thinking that we will just take one day and complete the entire customs. God damn it, customs marathon. Yes, okay, we will do that. If you have our support, we will definitely do that. Please like this video, my dear friends, if you genuinely liked it, and make sure that you make the most of it. Thank you, my dear friends, all the very best. And please watch the FMM series, okay, that I have started. It is very, very important, and it will really help you answer those questions, make the most of it, and that's it. That's the only objective that I need to achieve. I want to pass all of you all with an exemption in ITT.